Welcome to our double black belt level frequently asked questions. This is part of our AI Mastery series, and very specifically, this particular recording is for our Custom GPT Mastery. And we are now beyond, this is the final video, and we call this Empowered Advocates. So these are the questions that our elite double black belts might have, and hopefully it might guide you if you're looking to becoming what we consider an empowered advocate. Now, an empowered advocate is thinking to themselves, others need this too. I can be their guide, their lighthouse. Our business, the brand, it's the Pharos Digital Dojo. Lighthouse is based on the Greek word for lighthouse, which is Pharos. And also Pharos is the original the original lighthouse at Alexandria. So we built this on the premise of insight, clarity, and growth. And you've hopefully seen that throughout our courses, whether it's the theory or frequently asked questions. So here we are going to talk about how legacy is built through teaching others the path you have mastered. And for clarity, your personal journey should become a model for industry transformation, or at the very least for transforming people around you. And for growth, I want you to shift your focus from your work to multiplying the mastery of others. And by the way, if you don't want to do that, that's okay. You just don't need to be part of the Black Belt program. Now, if you want to watch along just for entertainment, you're welcome. And what I hear at this level is people say, I have scaled my work, now it's time to scale my impact. So if you've walked this journey, congratulations, you've taken a lot of steps with me. We have a 10-stage program, and within each stage, there are 5 badges people master. If you're brand new to ChatGPT, stop now. This video is not for you yet. This is advanced. So our white belt level walks people through beginner all the way to stage 9, which is our empowered advocate and really, truly advanced. Here we're teaching others how to master their business, their mindset, their skills, and turn that into teaching tools. So here are the frequently asked questions. Question 1, how can I mentor others without overwhelming them or dimming their creativity? I love this particular question because it is, in my mind, the fundamental, and honestly, actually, as I think about it, these questions that I'm sharing with you, I asked myself as I built this program, whether I thought about it or not. My goal is, how do I mentor somebody without overwhelming them? Now, I'm going to be really, really blunt here. I can be a lot to take in. Surprise, surprise, I am neurodiverse. I have many wonderful things in my brain. Publicly, the labels that some people will share are ADHD, autism, OCD, OCAT, something like that, OCAD, something like that. Doesn't matter. I am infinitely curious. I love learning and I love teaching. And one of the lessons I learned in life is I can quickly overwhelm other people, not by intention, but just because of the sheer volume of things I love to learn and share. If you don't believe me, I can have a conversation with you about writing books, creating workshops, creating workbooks, self-publishing, working with others, training, building masterminds, creating podcasts. I have a lot of interests. So here's what I did. Here's what I'm going to share with you. I took the entire body of knowledge, in this case, ChatGPT, and mastering it. I took the entire body of knowledge and I tried to break it down into 10 bite-sized chunks or stages. So you don't have to use my methodology, but it works, and that's why I created it. I studied lots of different methodologies, training, learning, etc. And what I kept coming back to was martial arts and belts. And more importantly, way back when, one of my mentors, he had this way. He was very much the real life equivalent of Mr. Miyagi on the Karate Kid. He would teach you the little elements of wax on, wax off. And then once you've mastered the muscle memory, he would show you how to put those elements together to create a self-defense technique, maybe an attack or a defense. It was really, really cool because I realized he was teaching me the little pieces before my brain could say, oh, this is too hard, I give up. And then once I'd learned the little pieces, all I had to do was fine tune how the pieces were connected, and I could produce amazing results. So I would encourage you, take your body of knowledge, whatever that looks like, and break it down into phases. And by the way, if you're first out of the gate doing this, you will know you've overshot if your novices are overwhelmed right at the get-go. So just a rule of thumb, at the foundational level, what I like to do is teach the vocabulary. So what does somebody need to know in order to understand this concept thoroughly? How do I know that they're going to succeed? So that's the first thing, is teaching the vocabulary. And once they understand the language, then I give them the basics. What are the raw materials that they'll build on for the rest of their time with me? So in this case, believe it or not, if you go way back to the beginning, I teach what I call a ChatGPT foundational course. And in that course, I teach you the language of what ChatGPT is, how to use it. And I show things like, this is the interface, here's where you click, here's what you have to set up. But give people the tools they need to succeed from the get-go. And by the way, this is a refining process. It's not one and done. As I develop things, and you'll see this, I created and recorded my theory courses. And now based on the theory, I've been teaching people, and for the record, I've been teaching this for literally, I've been using ChatGPT for 3 years. I've been teaching others how I use it for 3 years. That's how my brain works. I learn by teaching, and once I learn something, I teach it. And I break down the questions, and those questions help me grow, and it helps me understand what people don't know. So what you'll see in the Digital Dojo is, for everything we teach, there is a theory video. So there's a white belt theory video all the way up to double black belt. And then I've created addendums, extra content based on the frequently asked questions. Now, I will update those frequently asked questions as more and more people take the content as they're learning. But basically, the frequently asked questions allow me to supplement the learning without having to re-record everything. Now, the final piece in this, and you will have not seen this yet, probably, in our paid version, in our Digital Dojo, where we actually work one-on-one or in groups with people, the third element, so we have the theory, the frequently asked questions. The third element is practical application. And really, truly, that is the value of the Digital Dojo. You've got all of the theory. You're welcome to do it yourself. And we've got the Digital Dojo for those who want some help. We actually walk through, we do workshops, we do lessons where peers are connecting and sharing with peers. And we also have expert-driven and novice-driven lessons. But the key is we practice, 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 and we move forward only when people are ready to move forward. So question 2, what's the best way to codify my process so that it can live beyond me? And we will define as we go. You will identify what your process is, what you want to codify. But we have a ton of frameworks that we use. The most likely one for codifying your processes, we've got processes for creating processes. So we call that standard operating procedures. That is one way to do it. Also, we will turn those SOPs into training materials. That might be workshops, it might be master classes, it might be workbooks, it might be books, it can be even webinars. But basically, the idea is once you understand what somebody needs to learn, we will build the tools to help make that codified so that others can replicate it. And this is where I believe, so let's step back for a moment and I'll share my belief on mastery. And what I believe is that mastery is only officially accomplished when we have three ingredients. First ingredient, I have personally learned the skill I need to learn to be confident and say, I know how to do this. So first step is learning, it's self-mastery. Second step is teaching others how to learn and master that same skill set. So this is other mastery. And then the third element of mastery is a combination of optimization and innovation. And this is where we're pushing the boundaries of what is considered mastery, and we're actually contributing more to the community by educating others. So we have a process, and again, I use my Pharos Digital Dojo as a template for anybody who wants to. This is not a quick fix. It's not an easy thing. It does take a little bit of time and effort. But basically, I'm happy to teach somebody. If you want to replicate what I've built in the dojo, I will give you the tools. I will give you the custom GPTs, and you can build your own. And by the way, we have a group as of today in November of 2025. I have approximately 400 plus or minus custom GPTs, all experts at one aspect of business. So they're specialists in their field, and they are accessible to all of my Digital Dojo paid members so that you can create your stuff and refine it. Now, to be fair, just to be clear, there's about 400. If I give you my spreadsheet and turn you loose, your head will explode. That would be mean, quite frankly, a little bit cruel and completely counterproductive. So what I do for the Digital Dojo is people have challenges, opportunities that they want to work on, and I will grant them access to the specific custom GPTs they need in order to accomplish that goal. So that's something you're going to think about. My role is as much training you on what to do and then helping you understand what not to do. So I provide sort of a curated role where I help people solve their problems specifically on their own. Question 3, how do I design a training experience or curriculum that transfers not just skill, but mindset? So there's a bias here, and this is my belief, and I hope you share it. If not, you're welcome to share your own. My belief is quite simple. Most training focuses on how to do something. The reality is the how to do something is way less important than why we do something. And then once we understand why, what do we need to think and believe in order to learn that thing? So you may recall once or twice I've mentioned we have 5 badges. So at every belt level, badge number 1 is mindset. Badge number 2 is skill set. Then we get into gear set, community, and attitude. So five badges. Mindset comes first because if I give you the right mindset, you are going to learn the thing, learn it well, and actually master it. And more importantly, you're going to internalize it. If I don't give you the mindset, you might learn the skill, you might not, but you're not going to know why you're doing it or genuinely care about what mastery looks like. Now, the next thing is we teach the skill set. So what are the skills you need to master? This is more general skills, and it applies to the situation, but also to you as a person. And then once we understand the skills, Then we look at how do we learn the gear set, which is really just my way of saying tools. So we teach mindset and skill set before we ever touch the tools. And I believe that's important, because if you learn the tool first, you are tempted to move forward and you don't necessarily understand the mindset or the skills that go into using that tool. And then, of course, we have community and attitude, because this is where we train others and we master our skills by working with others and teaching them. And it's where we build that attitude where we have respect and consistency. We're respecting ourselves, we're respecting our community, and we're respecting the newfound knowledge we're gaining and sharing. So that is where I have a lot of fun in life. I build the training from the ground up. And again, the key is, and this is one other area I think a lot of people miss, I also recognize there are 5 types of main learning styles. And so I ensure that there's something for each learning style at each stage. So in case you don't know this, there is something called the VARC model, which has the 4 top training learning methodologies. And spoiler alert, we tend to train others using our default learning modality. So that sounds complicated, but basically the way we learn is the way we teach. So if we only learn one way, we're only going to teach one way. And in a perfect world, everybody is equally split. So we'd say, well, that's okay. I'm only teaching 25% of the population or 20%. Reality is it's not even, but that's okay. So the 5 learning modalities, VARC is the most common method, VARK. So we have visual learners who like to see diagrams. They need to visualize things and they need to see the big picture. We've got A for auditory. Those are people who like to listen to things. They like to hear things. They need to hear you explain it. Then we've got R, which is reading and writing. I am high on the R chart, almost to the exclusion of the others. If I need to learn something, I have to read it and then I have to write my thoughts on it. So I've written about 150, 160 books. The reason I do that is when I learn something, I immediately write a book about it so that I can share my experience of learning it, so that later on it clarifies my thinking, it helps me to ask questions. And again, my way of learning is helping others learn. And then K is for kinesthetic, and basically that's for tactile people who need to touch and feel. So they want to see models, demonstrations, hands-on workshops. So that's the 4 most common training modalities. And then the 5th, which did not make the cut for VARC, but I think is emerging as very important, is what we call communal learners. So there are some people that need to explore something through one of the 4 main modalities of VARC, and then they need to discuss it in a group to learn it. That is emerging. Again, it didn't make the cut for VARC, but it is what I would say the 5th. So I have a lot of group programs and masterminds where people come together and learn. And of course, everything I teach, I show people how to teach others, because that cements whatever our learning is through our dominant learning / teaching style. Question 4, how do I build a movement or community around my work without it losing depth or integrity? I love this question, and I'm going to answer it with an example that I love. And again, I have no personal firsthand, but I've verified with others. Dr. Ivan Misner is the creator of the BNI, Business Networking International. And famously, somebody asked him once in an interview or a conversation, Dr. Misner, is BNI a cult? And him being very quick-witted, he said, I wish if it was a cult, people would do what I ask of them and tell them to do. And I think that is probably the ultimate comment. When you join BNI, it is a movement, it is a community. It is based on his first book. I believe it was Giver's Gain. And he shares his mindset of building networking relationships that help one another in business. Now, over time, it's evolved and they have some training. There's a lot of deep insights. Unfortunately, a lot of people have taken his training and made it feel very transactional. So instead of networking for the sake of networking and to help others, to follow that giver's gain, a lot of people, again, they learned the skills, they learned the gear, they forgot the mindset. So for me personally, I believe that the fundamental is we need to build the mindset so that everybody knows why we do what we do. And we practice this in our dojo. If we're true to the mindset and we attract people like us who understand our mindset, the good news is that our movement will grow very organically, bigger and better and faster than we could have hoped, because the people who believe what we believe will come to us. And for what it's worth, it is up to us to ensure that the depth and integrity is maintained. As an example, I built the Pharos Digital Dojo based on my belt system to prove that the belt system does help. And for what it's worth, if you're listening to this, you probably have some questions. I built the dojo intentionally. At every stage, I give people the mindset of what I want them to understand and embrace as their beliefs. And then I give them the confidence and the practice to make sure those beliefs stick. So every step of the dojo, and this is a movement I'm trying to build, my mission is, and I haven't stated it nicely enough that it's a catchy little soundbite, but my mission is to end irresponsible, bad AI use. And by bad, I mean that slop that nobody cares about, the thing that drives people crazy. We're here to add value to the world, not take it away. And by the way, the default, if you're not adding value, you're taking it away. So my mission is to help people add value to the world through responsible AI use. And I truly believe we are the adults in the conversation. If we have the right mindset, AI can sharpen what we do and make us sound better, shine brighter in the world, and therefore have bigger impact, help more people. And the side effect is we'll make more money and have less stress doing it. Question 5. How can I use storytelling to teach others the same transformations I experienced? This is actually a fun comment, a fun question, and I'm going to use a quote. I can't remember who the source is, but the quote is more important than the source. I will identify the source later. The quote is, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken." So one of the things I am seeing today is that everybody is trying to use ChatGPT to sound like someone else. They want to be more of someone else and less of themselves. And I truly laugh at this because I believe in being authentic. I talk a lot about building authentic relationships, having your authentic voice. And the reality is, if you don't know who you are, you're going to try and mimic other people. But what you need to understand and discover is that your audience needs to know who you are so that they can follow you. And by the way, the number one best way you will hear me on all of these recordings, I share examples that I've lived and experienced. I share examples of things I've read, I've learned, but really, truly, most human beings learn through stories. And stories are very powerful in helping us transform who we are. I start with the beliefs and I help people understand my beliefs so they can decide whether or not it's worth learning what I teach. If you're transactional and you're looking to create the most volume of AI slop out there, you don't need my help. And I guarantee you have not listened to any of my videos from cover to cover, end to end, because you're busy trying to generate more slop. And by the way, if you want to generate slop, all you need to do is a 1 sentence prompt. ChatGPT, write me an article, blog post, whatever, about X topic. Make it X words long, period. And you will get slop. I guarantee it. If you don't want slop, hang around, because this is the weird space I play in, and this is where we have some fun. So that is how I use storytelling. And if you don't believe me, we feel like we've evolved. We want to pretend we're these highly sophisticated, highly intelligent beings. Reality is, we're 1 step away from our ancestors that came down from the trees. We are more like our original monkey origins than most of us would like to admit. And we are easily triggered by emotional things. My proof to that is, the stronger the emotion around something, the better we remember it and can recall it, which is why most humans can tell you about the trauma they've experienced more so than, what did you do today? Or did you have lunch? I don't know. So we remember things that we have a strong emotional attachment to. So we're going to use storytelling, and if that makes you uncomfortable, bear with us, but I promise I'll give you examples and I'll help you understand the stories that you need to tell to help your audience understand what the transformation can look like and how you help them get it. Question 6, what's the right way to license or scale my frameworks so that others can teach them too? This is a great question, and I want to actually take a moment and talk about intellectual property. So, for what it's worth, in 2025, it seems that the world has stopped caring about intellectual property. I'm not saying that the laws have changed, it just seems like the attitude has changed. In my personal experience, I've had people who, as a friend, I shared a PDF or a draft of one of my books. Next thing I know, I turn around and they're selling their version of my book that they took as a PDF from me, fed it to ChatGPT, changed a few words just to say, this is mine. And literally, I can see my little book baby out there. Somebody just basically renamed it and they're calling it their own. I don't hold a grudge. I feel sorry for those people, because if you're trying to be me, you're going to fail. I am not the world's best at anything other than at being myself. And if you try to copy me without living in my shoes for a few decades, you're going to have, at best, a really hollow copy. So first and foremost, the best way to protect or scale your frameworks is to have original thoughts, or original ways to implement thoughts that other people have had, always giving them credit. So I do a few things. You will find what works for you. So for example, I create training courses. As you'll see, I have my theory, my frequently asked questions, and practical application. People can copy my theory all day long, but the stories that I share are not going to copy well, or if they do copy well, the person who is going to share them are going to struggle with, well, what was Jeff thinking when he shared this? Why did he share this? What was the lesson here? And then the thing people can't replace or can't steal from me is my workshops, my group programs, my masterminds, my workshops. You can take my theory and try to teach it, but if you haven't earned this wisdom like I have, and if somebody hasn't earned the wisdom that you have, they're going to come across as a little bit tentative. Their audience is going to know. So I create courses, and then the first thing I do once I create a course is I'll turn it into a book or a workbook, so that I can say with confidence, this is my framework. And by the way, whenever I build a framework based on someone else's efforts or work, I always try to give them credit. Sometimes I forget where I learned something, but most of the time, if I have a framework, for example, I'm crazy about the Pareto principle, I can tell you with confidence that I learned that through Vilfredo Pareto, who was the original Pareto that named the principle. But also I've learned a lot about it from the likes of Tim Ferriss or Perry Marshall. So the right way is to give people credit where credit is due, and where you've diverged, that's where you are going to shine. So we build frameworks that are truly uniquely yours based on who you are, what you know, what you've learned. It is almost impossible for somebody to copy it. And once you've built those models, as for example, I did with the Pharos Digital Dojo, then you can teach others how to teach others your model. And by the way, as long as you're innovating and adding value, your people will stay with you. As a randomness, when I used to deal with the world of accounting, a lot of franchises, I saw that people would follow the franchise model for the first few years, and then somewhere they would get cocky and say, well, I know how to do this thing as well as the model does. They drop the franchise, go out on their own, and usually struggle because they didn't recognize how much support the franchise gave them. So I license materials. If people want to use my frameworks, I'm happy to license them, and people pay me for them. Now, the cynic out there might say, well, yeah, that's good. They've got your knowledge and they move on. I will half jokingly, but almost fully, I'm going to say full belly laugh on this. If somebody steals my content today, they get what I knew up to and including today. However, they burn that bridge with me because, believe me, you steal my content, I become aware very quickly. If you steal my content and you try to pose it off as your own, you are dead to me, and not in a mean way. It's just you don't get access to the new ideas. So I innovate, and in my belief, that's the best way to build a moat around your knowledge, is to keep growing it. Because believe it or not, I had somebody about 6 months into my journey with ChatGPT. They took my ideas, stole it, built their own business, started promoting it. And interestingly, after about 6 months on their own, they were so confident in their ideas, they forgot who they got them from. And they actually came back to me and tried to sell me my 6-month-old system. They'd had 6 months working on it. It was hilarious because, first of all, they were literally pitching me in earnest like they built this system. They actually believed they had. However, when I asked them questions about it, they started falling apart because they didn't have the answers. And believe it or not, that person, they still didn't remember who they'd stolen it from. The next month, they came to me and said, Jeff, I have some holes in my system. I'd love to have a meeting, pick your brain about how to fix them. Are you up for that? And I just politely said, last time we talked, you started a business. I'm really proud of you. You've made great progress. I think it would actually not help you. It would not be in your best interests to pick my brain. I think you need to figure this out yourself. And I very subtly reminded them who taught them what they knew. Let's just say they disconnected from me and they no longer try to pick my brain. So I wish them well. I hope they have all the best of success on the planet. But the reality is I don't need to keep feeding those people who want to pick my brain. Now, if you're part of the dojo and you're playing along, welcome to the party. You can pick my brain at length as much as you need to succeed. Question 7. How can I identify and develop future leaders or mini pharaohs within my community? Really, truly, what this question is asking is, who are the fellow lighthouses that will take my legacy forward? Now, I'm going to be clear. This one fascinates me because you will genuinely attract 3 types of people. I haven't talked about it much here, but one of my little things, I love the book, The Strategy of the Dolphin by Paul L. Cordes and Dudley Lynch. And in that book, they talk about three types of people generally. The first type of people are dolphins. Dolphins believe in abundance and they love playing with others. And they're always looking at how do we make the world a better place together. In my world, the dolphins self-identify very, very quickly. And those are the people I want leading my legacy forward. Now, the reason I want them is they believe in abundance. They're not here to steal my ideas, and they're going to actually add their own ideas. And together, we're having a potluck party where everybody's got unique perspectives. Dolphins are my people. Now, the second group is loosely defined as sharks. And by the way, none of these groups are better or worse as humans. They're just different. And for me personally, I like to play with dolphins. I don't want to spend my time with the other two. So sharks, they have a scarcity mindset, but their scarcity is one of us will win, one of us will lose. So they're always looking to dominate or take over. And basically, if you train a shark on your system, I can guarantee that sometime in the future, they're going to set up a shop and try to sell your ideas as their own. They don't mean to, it's just that's how they are. They're highly competitive, they're highly self-motivated, and they don't mind if they steal your idea and they cause some pain in the community, doesn't bother them. Now, they're not my people. You can put fences around them. You can give them, have a shark cage, and you can have some guidelines. Sharks can make good partners in terms of people, affiliates promoting you. They're highly competitive, so they love winning sales awards and things like that. In the digital dojo, I try to avoid sharks because they're always in it for themselves and they're not willing to share or play nice with the community. Now, the third, and in my opinion, the most dangerous group are called carp. And basically, the thing about carp is they have an absolute scarcity mindset, and their actual outlook on life is, I can't win, so why bother? Now, carp are very nice people. They are actually, in fact, the most common group out there. I would say probably 60, 70% of the population. They're pessimists. They believe they're going to lose. And really, truly, their goal every day is to try not to lose too badly today. So they have very little hope. If they do have goals, they're very small, very sad. They want to try and lose less than 3% in the portfolio if they're investing. They're always playing defense. And if you don't know this, if you're only playing defense, you have zero chance of winning in most things in life. Now, the reason I say carp are dangerous is they will slowly suck the life out of any room they're in. So if somebody has hope or optimism or excitement, they will put a little pin in it and pop that balloon. And they will, as the leader, they will tell you you're brilliant, you're amazing, they love you, how can they help you? But they crowd around you, so they suffocate the energy and the oxygen out of you. And ironically, they keep the people away who would actually pay you. So these are the people, I see them at conferences all the time. You can give your world-leading presentation, you can share your heart's content, and they come up afterwards, and either they'll tell you you misspoke or you had a typo on your slides. They really, really suck the life out of a room. Again, great people, just not great in a mastermind, for example. So what I'm looking for in my community is the dolphins. Now, you're going to have criteria of your own. I would challenge each of you to figure out who you want to serve, what you want to do with them, and look for them. So just to recap, if I identify dolphins as future leaders, the community will grow exponentially because everybody's playing full on and bringing more value than they take. If you have sharks, it's a zero-sum game because they will take. And by the way, groups with sharks in them, sometimes that only takes one. They tend to explode very quickly. It is almost as gory as watching a shark attack. So explode, it's violent, and it ends. Now, a group with predominantly carp in it will slowly fizzle and literally die a languishing death of boredom. You won't identify why, you won't have a defining moment. You'll just know that there's no life in the room and it never evolves. So if you want a legacy, find dolphins. And by the way, your version of dolphins. Not all dolphins are good for you. You need the right ones. Question 8. How do I measure my success now that my impact is measured in multiplication, not just mastery? This is a fantastic question, and I answer it with a question. I apologize. That's just the way my brain works. My first question is, what does success look like to you? Now, for me, success has some many facets to it, and I'll share just roughly what I believe. My number one criteria for success is impact. Am I helping others by adding value to their lives? And if you aren't obsessed with value and impact, a lot of what I do doesn't make sense. I actually love it. I get messages all the time from marketing people who want to, get my business. They want to run paid traffic. They want me to pay them lots of money to build a website. And they get really annoyed because I don't care about any of the vanity metrics that most modern, especially social media driven marketing focuses on. I don't care about likes. I don't care about follows. I care about, and I borrow this from Fred Reichheld in his book, Winning on Purpose. I care about net lives enriched. And genuinely, the question I ask myself every day, is the world better for me having played in it today? And honestly, if I can't say yes, I feel like I've wasted a day. So my version of success is going to be different from yours. Now, to be clear, I'm not a communist. I like money. I have business metrics. So for me, my number one metric is net cash inflow based on the time invested. So I'm always looking at return on investment. For these videos, I've probably spent a couple hundred hours. I would like to see at least a few hundred lives improved because of it. And of course, there's a time and money inbound, which is my return on investment. So I also look at, does this help me help others? Does it reduce the time I spend in my business? And does it increase my profits? Now, if you're a solopreneur and you're just starting out, your number one metric, I'm going to be blunt, has to be cash flow. If you're not bringing cash in, you're not going to live to another day to help as many people as you want. There was an expert in my life once upon a time who used to walk around muttering. His favorite thing to mutter was, "There's nothing sadder than a broke philanthropist." And I truly believe that, because if we're not earning the money we need, if our business can't afford to pay us to pay attention, we're doing ourselves a disservice and we're actually limiting our future impact. So if you have no other metrics for success, you're just early days starting out, cash flow is my number one. If you don't have cash flow, nothing else matters. Now, to be clear, cash flow is assumed to be ethical, moral, legal, etc. But cash flow is how most entrepreneurs have their most impact. And by the way, if you don't believe me, if you have cash flow, you can build a team, you can support your community, you can have philanthropy, you can invest in things that support growth. You have a lot more options if you have cash flow. So my number one gift to you, if you don't have cash flow in your business, figure out how to get cash flow, because that is the critical thing. And I believe it's the reason so many businesses fail. They focus on the wrong things and they don't have the cash flow early enough. Question 9. How can I balance giving back with continuing to grow my own innovation edge? And believe it or not, this is the level in my career where I'm at. I really, really struggled because I could keep all of my knowledge to myself. I could hoard it and I could build all kinds of really cool things and I could make all kinds of money doing that, but it felt empty. So I can make custom GPTs. I love building them. It takes me a couple of hours. I have conversations with people. I do some research and I build them. Um, the challenge was gone because my systems are so dialed in. I can do that and really don't break a sweat. Now, the problem is when I get into that level where I am just cranking things out, I'm not looking to innovate anymore. So for me personally, I balance giving back and my innovative edge by teaching others. Now, again, I am not a hippie. I'm not giving away my life skills for free. I get paid to help others help others. Now, the key is that helping others help others gives me great joy. So I do this because it gives me joy and I get paid accordingly because my joy is spreading and helping others find their joy. So you will find your own path. But one of the things we do in the Pharos Digital Dojo is we invite you to bring your friends, colleagues, family, peers, etc. And you can run your own groups using our frameworks. We have a licensing model, we have other things, but basically it's up to you. You can build the frameworks and you can help others. And in the digital dojo at the double black belt level, iron sharpens iron, and this never more true than at this level. We're going to push one another to innovate ethically and responsibly. So for me, I love innovating, but I don't want to be on the cutting edge of the cutting edge of the bleeding edge. I need to have some colleagues with me. So sometimes I need to come back to the cutting edge or a little bit before that. And that's how I balance it. So for me, I build experiments using the scientific method, and then I use that to help others live better lives. So that's my balance. You're going to find your own. Now, question 10. This is the unanswerable answered question. So here's my thoughts. What I hear is, what's my final form, the legacy I want this dojo to represent long after I'm gone? And really, truly, I don't know the answer. And I hope that you don't think you know the answer either. The reality is, with the digital dojo, my first view, I built the frameworks, I built the tools, and then I built the ChatGPT Mastery program. I fully expect with my tools, I will build other mastery programs. It is the digital dojo, so it's always going to have some sort of digital aspect to it. In my world, I'm equally obsessed with Google and the Google ecosystem. I guarantee there's going to be a Google Mastery Dojo as well, all part of the Pharos Digital Dojo form. But the reality is, I built this framework and I built the infrastructure so that no matter what the world tells us, no matter what technology changes, I will still have my legacy growing because my next generation, I built this digital dojo for my boys. I have 2 teenagers, and my goal is that they will learn and grow in. There's a quote, if I've seen further, it's because I've stood on the shoulder of giants. I have done that. I've had amazing mentors, amazing tutors, amazing thought leaders that I've followed, and everything I've learned is built on their shoulders. And again, I like to credit them and give them credit. I built the digital dojo so that my boys have a framework for learning and mastering any skill they need in life, starting with ChatGPT. So the schools they go to, the mandate is AI is bad, don't use it. almost to the point, and I've heard this in some degree, if you use it, it's considered intellectual dishonesty and you will be expelled. I personally take offense to educators telling people that a new way to learn should be banned. It feels a very draconian and a little bit dark ages. But basically, my legacy is my boys will know how to use tools like ChatGPT legally, responsibly, ethically. And so this isn't a journey. It's not, there is no end to this. I hope that what I've accomplished in the last 3 years is just the first step in what I'm going to accomplish the rest of my career. So thank you for being on this journey. And if you want to learn more and play with us, you're welcome to join. The White Belt is free. The content, specifically the theory and the frequently asked questions, are free. You can find them on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you want to play along with me and you want to learn and grow your skills, join the dojo. And at the double black belt level, your investment is $1,000 a month. I fully expect you're getting at least $10,000 a month in income from things you've created through the dojo. That's my benchmark. If you're not, let's figure out how to get you there. And then once you're there, I encourage people to give back and mentor others. So that's why we don't charge more at the empowered advocate level. You've topped out on what you're going to pay me. Now it's about mutual contribution and how we as peers can walk through and help each other together. So if you want to join us, visit pharosbusiness.com/digital-dojo. Thank you.